Erin thought briefly of the Varna, the Hindu ranking system. She recalled the Brahmins, the priests and the religious teachers, the Kshatras, the noble families and the warriors, the Vaishyas, the merchants and the businessmen, the Shudras, the laborers and the service providers. Finally, she thought of the lowest ranking members of the Indian society, the Dalats. They were also known as the Untouchables, a backward group of people who were excluded from the caste system. Each category in this elaborate system had its own rules and ways of life. The upper two classifications, the Brahmins and the Kshatras, were honorable and prestigious, and Murari obviously belonged to one of the two ranks. She also knew that all but the last group, the Dalats, were respected in his country. It wasn't until religious leaders and the government demonstrated a strong opposition against the ill treatment of the untouchables that laws were enacted and change became possible. Erin tightened her hands and made two fists. Yes, her family had migrated from the South after slavery, but their professional trade at that time had not been a matter of choice. They had worked the land and harvested crops out of absolute fear and blatant brutality. Her people had been captured, brought to this country, and sold. If any of them had become merchants or businessmen, then it had been because of their sheer talent and drive. She refused to apologize for them. Her history was full of amazing people, accomplished men and women. Erin's eyes were glued to the prince as she opened her mouth and the words rushed out. Do you consider me a Dalat? Am I defiled, unclean? Of course not. What are you talking about, Eri? I've never treated you like that. Not until now, she said, disagreeing with his statement. You cannot seriously believe that. Erin stared at him. I don't know what to believe anymore. Her declaration was in frustration. The cardiothoracic surgeon paused before speaking. Tell me, Murari, is there a princess in the story? A young woman who has suddenly attracted your eye? She judged his expression for several seconds and then made a distasteful sound with her mouth. She should have known that there was more to this story. Of course there was another woman involved. Listen to me, Ari. I am not making excuses. I am simply trying to explain. Stop lying. This is what you want. Admit it. He moved about the room, drawing his hands through his black hair and looking about in frustration. Things are not that simple. I am accountable for all of my actions, each decision I make. You should have thought of that before you stepped into my life 3 years ago, she said, brushing aside his comment and continuing with her interrogation. The sarcasm in her voice was thick. Are you moving out? Is that what this is about? I am not trying to hurt you. This isn't how I plan to leave things. I want you to at least understand my side of it. She became incredulous. He couldn't possibly be expecting empathy from her. He was literally breaking her heart. Yet he wanted compassion? Mercy? Where are you going to live? Asked Erin, when he did not deny her accusation. No, don't tell me. Let me guess. You have a palatial residence in India with lots of servants, which is also a part of your birthright. Am I close? You cannot possibly be royalty without such luxuries. He glared at her and noted her biting sarcasm. You are correct. I am leaving, he said, retaliating in like anger. My family does own a palace in northern India, but we no longer live there. Today it functions as a hospital. When I complete my studies in the States, I will return to it, he declared. And as for princesses, the only ones in this tale are my sisters. I have 8 of them. Erin's entire body stopped moving, stopped breathing. What was he going to tell her next? If this were the 4th month of the year, she would have expected to hear April Fool. Although It was not the 1st of April. Erin was beginning to feel like a complete idiot. She did not have time for this madness. She had a right atrioventricular valve replacement in 2 hours. She could not surgically fix the one-way circular opening which was located between the first and second chamber of the heart. The tricuspid valve prevented a backflow of blood from re-entering the first chamber of her patient's heart. She could not do it in this state of mind. Erin thought of the problematic area of the fish-shaped organ which pumped blood through the 4 chambers of the heart. She needed to focus, to control the situation before it affected her surgical judgment. She visualized the blood moving from the right atrium to its right ventricle, and then being forced from the heart by a high arterial pressure, which allowed it to travel through the pulmonary arteries and into the right and left lung. There, the liquid tissue would then circulate through the pulmonary system and undergo a gastric exchange, releasing carbon dioxide and gaining oxygen in the lungs. The oxygenated blood would then return to the heart via the pulmonary veins and fill the left atrium and left ventricle. Erin pictured the blood leaving the aortic of the heart and traveling through a series of arterial vessels, which permitted it to rush to the upper extremities of the body, the neck, head, and arms, as well as the lower region of the body, the chest, abdomen, and legs. The graphic image calmed her as she meditated on the continuous red stream of liquid running the 2 closed circuits of the cardiovascular system, the pulmonary and the systemic circuits. She envisioned the improved medical condition of her patient once the success of the operation was achieved. Erin raised her eyes to Marari and chose neutral words when she spoke. "All right, let's get this over with. Talk to me, but do not yell, and no more cruel words. They are not necessary. The emotional outburst does not suit either of us." The microvascular attending paused. With some effort, he collected his thoughts. "I love you, Ari. You know it to be true. But that is not enough. It will not free me from what I am required to do. My family is ruled by tradition. Our customs are a way of life. Our gods dictate the path we choose. The stars announce my name at birth. My parents do what to call me simply by their existence. You cannot compete with that." "I am not trying to. I am my parents' son, Aaron. I make no excuses for who I am, but I cannot continue in this relationship